Let's start off with a story today. And that story is about the first time I participated with grandmother ayahuasca. Now, this story begins with me arriving in the sacred mountains and hiking through them to arrive at a hut of this beautiful medicine man, this shaman, this man that had been trained in multiple traditions and the Andean traditions of Machu Picchu as well as in Shipibo. And he'd also been trained in the Lakota and the Ute here in North America. And so when I arrived at his hut, first thing when I met this man is he's out front and he's smoking this big old, what looked like a cigar type thing, but it didn't smell like a cigar. It smelled really sweet. And I was kind of attracted to it. And I was like, what is this? And I was like, I know it's not weed because I know what the diet was that we were given. And I know that, down here in Peru, it's not exactly the easiest to find. And so I approach him and I realize he's smoking what's known as mapacho, which is a sacred tobacco in the Peruvian tradition that grows in the Amazon. It's actually considered kind of like the master plant of master plants, or like one of the grandfathers of master plants. It's a very old sacred medicine, and that can actually allow you to connect with a bunch of different energies. It's like the clear quartz of the medicine world, but on like an extreme high vibrational level. So, anyways, for those of you that don't know me, my name is Garth, and this is Experience Truth Podcast. Today is a solo cast about a personal story, and I want to let you know that this is all brought to you by Golden Shadow Academy, which is a program that we have as a coaching program called Unleash Your Potential, which is launching in February. If you're interested in joining that, please click the link down below and you can jump on a discovery call with me. But regardless of any of that, let's dive into this story. And now this story is very important to me and it's dear to my heart, and it's part of what transformed me into a much better being. See, discovering plant medicine put me on the path of shamanism and the indigenous path, which has given me so many blessings in my life. But in a lot of ways, it has given me direction in my life. It has saved my marriage. It has saved my relationships. It has healed my soul. And not that I actually needed healing. That's one thing to understand, is that we talk about self-improvement, we talk about healing ourselves a lot, but understand, like, you are not broken. There is nothing wrong with you. You are perfect and amazing and beautiful and wonderful exactly as you are. Does that mean that when we came into this world, some things happened to us as we got raised and grown and went through events, and maybe we've created some stories and some programming that doesn't serve us and kind of blocks us from our natural abilities? Yes. Do we all have things that we're not proud of? Probably. Are we all trying to strive to be a better person? Hopefully. But that's the thing, is that you're not doing anything wrong. And we might all have programming that doesn't serve. And so we can understand what does serve and what doesn't serve. And so that's like one of the big lessons I first learned with this plant medicine, was looking at my life fully of what serves and what doesn't serve. And that was a question I was given when I first discovered this medicine man and set up and booked an appointment to come to his retreat in the sacred Apu Mountains. I connected with him, and that was one thing he asked, was to journal about the things that serve my life and the things that don't serve. Now, I had done this in Best Version of Yourself trainings, and I had facilitated Best Version of Yourself trainings, so I knew what he was getting at, but boy, did I not know the depthness of this. So I show up, I meet the man, he gives me a hug, we talk for a little while, I get to know him a little bit closer, he asks me if I have any questions, he gets me all set up in his maloka, which is this beautiful building where medicine is done. In the Peruvian traditions, there's a lot of places, but mostly in Peruvian, they call it a maloka. It's a building where there's medicine performed. It's usually a circular building. It might have mats or beds in it, and usually it ends up becoming a spiritual vortex of transformation, a spiritual vortex where medicine and high spirits come through. And the shaman is actually in charge of maintaining the maloka, keeping it energetically clear. So when you're in ceremony, you're on your own personal journey, but everybody is on the collective journey. So you kind of view it as, the word in Hawaiian is escaping me now, but it's a giant canoe, a giant boat, where everyone is on this boat going into the astral mysteries of the universe, but everyone is individually on their own journey. So you're individually, collectively on a journey together. And the shaman's job is that he is aware of everything that's going on with you. Um, we can call them maestros and maestros as well. Sometimes they're called dons, sometimes they're called curanderos, curanderas. So, this curandero uh, holds the space and can energetically check in with each person, as it holds the geometry of the space, but also holds the container of the ship. So they're kind of the captain of the ship that's going through the astral thing. So they've set up their container and they're in charge of it. They hold the energy very well. There's a lot of deep training that goes into that. And there's a lot of deep work that goes with that. And so we sit down and we get all prepared for the medicine. He goes through some preliminary things and so forth, which if you ever choose to go to Peru and do the medicine, you'll learn about those things. He makes sure everyone's been good on their diets, which is very important. See, there is a medical side of the diet and a food side of the diet. Now, the medical side, if you don't adhere to the medical stuff, like, certain prescriptions need to be not taken, certain chemicals and medicines can't be in your body, those can be trips to the morgue. Like those can be trips to the hospital. Like death or serious injury can happen if you break that side of the diet. On the food side, it's very important for that because it allows the medicine to work deeper in you. And by attaining to the food side and the health side, what happens there is if you're not adhering to that, you'll probably be more nauseous. You'll probably have a more uncomfortable time. You might even have a harder time surrendering to the medicine. Now, you could be perfect on the diet as well and be like 100% clean and still get really nauseous and still purge a lot on it. But I was super clean on the diet. And so we all sit down, we all are instructed, and then he advises that one by one people will come up and he will serve them the medicine and hand it across his mesa to us. We partake. There'll be several rounds. We each all have one round, and then maybe about an hour in, he'll call for seconds. About 2 or 3 hours in, he'll call for thirds, and he probably won't call for fourths, but if he does, he does. And so we begin talking about this, and I come up there and I kneel across him. We get a little exchange going about what my tolerance level is. Like what things I've done in the past and how much, and so he can kind of gauge how much to give me. And then as he's pouring, he stops for a moment, looks me in the eyes, pours a little bit more, and hands me this, I'd say very large shot glass, but it's this like, I wouldn't say bone cup, it has like kind of a bone texture, like look to it, but it's actually, I can tell it's made with some kind of clay or so forth. But he hands that to me. It's about 2 ounces or so. I don't know if that's really accurate or not, but it's like, shot glass, and it's like almost a double shot, but wide. So I chug that back, and it doesn't taste the best in the world. It can taste really bitter and really like harsh, but like my first instinct was like, this tastes like burnt licorice. And I was like, somehow I think I've had this before. And so it tasted like burnt licorice, and that was that. And so I'm sitting there, and it takes some time for the medicine to kick in. So I'm sitting on my mat, just kind of waiting, to make sure I have my water bottle where I need, my bucket. And so when you're in the Maloka, they do it at night. So when the sun goes down, usually a ceremony begins. And so we've got ourselves all situated up. And after everyone has partaken of the medicine, he blows out the candle. Now he himself has taken of it, as well as he has some assistants with him. He has this wonderful maestra from the Shipibo, or that's been trained in the Shipibo tribe, and her husband that's with them as well, that's been trained in the Hawaiian tribes, and actually has like a degree in world shamanism. Beautiful, awesome people. So they all partake of the medicine as well, and then it takes some time for it to kick on. But while it's coming on, they each begin to sing a little bit, and the main maestro, he begins to sing, and he begins to beat his drum, and sing into these ikaros. Now, an ikaro is both a song as well as a vibration, and so it is a song they sing forth, as well as it is a pattern that is like sewn into cloth or into clothing. So these are actually ikaros. These are from the Shipibo tribes. Each ikaro means a different thing. Like this one is very focused on divine masculine and divine feminine. So these patterns and the harmonization of them and how they create the third being, like which is the here and the now, which is what we are. That's what these ikaros are about. These ones go through ayahuasca and bobasana and otorango, which is the jaguar, and some other things. So anyways, an ikaro is sewn, but when they sew these, they actually are singing songs and they're sewing these patterns in. And then also, when they are singing over you in ceremony, now not every shaman is like this, but the Shipibo tradition teaches this, and other ones are like this too. They can see a pattern on you, that you yourself have a pattern, and they can see if it's out of harmony, if it's in a disharmonic state. And so then they'll come sing over you, and they'll sing egros into you that wrap around and harmonize your pattern, as well as add like an extra layers of patterns and energy of egros around you. Um, and so this singer, who's actually also ended up being my first teacher, as he begins singing, he channels the medicine directly. He channels Wairacocha. And so he's channeling these beings through. And so some of them are egros, some of them are like almost like only you can understand them. Like there's times I know it's in a different language, but I can understand it clearly and know exactly what it is, and I can tell it's for me or when it's for somebody else. And so as he begins to sing, and the room is in darkness, uh, I don't know how much time went on or how long into a song we are. Time escapes you at that point. But there begins to be like this silver pathway opens up in front of me, and I can see it lead through the darkness right up to his feet, where his mesa is and the medicine is, and where he's drumming and singing. And I can see it like plain as day, like as if like it's just glowing, and like the sun is out. And I'm like looking around, and I'm like, no, the sun's not out. And then I'm like checking my eyes, like, are they open? Are they closed? They're open. And I'm like, oh, this is crazy. And I'm like, all right, so I'm into some kind of transcendental state. Like at this point, I've done a lot of meditations. I've done breath work. I understand transcendental states. Like I've had my share of psychedelic experiences at this point, so I'm aware something's going on. But this is so vivid. My eyes are open, and I'm seeing this path, and then everything kind of blurs away, and I realize like I'm standing in a galaxy. And I'm sitting there in a galaxy, and I suddenly feel like I kind of want to lay down. So I kind of like lean myself back, and I'm laying against the wall at kind of this 45-degree angle. And as I'm leaning against this wall, I can just see stars everywhere. And as I'm seeing stars, I just realize whether my eyes are open or closed, I even try to close them, it doesn't matter, it's all the same. And then I realize like I might be out of my body. I might be in some kind of vision at this point. And so I begin to be like, am I out of my body? Am I astral projecting? What's happening? And I can't see the being, but I can feel this like female presence, like just standing next to me. And then sometimes she's on this side, but she's just standing there. And as I feel this female presence, I just kind of hear or feel her be like, don't worry about it. Garth is dead. It doesn't matter anymore. Come and be here and now. And I'm like, what do you mean Garth's dead? She's like, don't worry about it. And then suddenly I'm at peace, and I'm okay with it. And I'm not concerned if I'm astral projecting. I'm not concerned if I'm alive anymore. I'm not concerned about any of that. I'm just like, all right, so what are we doing then? And so she takes me on this journey and begins to show me things about my life, things that I'm not proud of, things I am really proud of, things where I could be better at. And all of it is viewed at the same. And she's pointing them out to me, realizing these areas you want to be better at, that you desire to improve yourself at, you're not doing anything wrong in those zones. And your desire to want to do them different and be different is because you want to experience it different, and you want those around you to experience it different. Period. There is no deeper meaning to that. There is no deeper grand vision of like you're sinning by showing up a certain way, or you're a good person by showing up a different way. Those are your morality judgments. And so she's breaking this down for me and showing me all these aspects that I may have had shame and guilt about, or I did have shame and guilt about at the time. And some of these heavy moments I'd gone through my life, and showing me that they're all what I prescribe to them. And that also when I remember them, I plant my energy onto it. So when I'm having a crap day and like a really heavy, hard day, and I remember some kind of memory, I actually put that heaviness as a lens over that memory. And when I'm having a great day, I do the same thing. And so she's showing me that like everything has the capital M meaning that we give it. And so whatever meaning I give something is what it means. Now that doesn't mean there wasn't trauma in my past. That doesn't mean that I didn't have abuse in my past. That doesn't mean that I didn't have my heart broken. It doesn't mean I didn't see people pass away. It doesn't mean I haven't gone through, really rough things and had, I had a friend die next to me. Like I had my hands over the bullet wounds and a drive-by and a spray bullet hit him. And I held that and he passed away. That doesn't mean that didn't happen, but at the same time, how much of that am I going to allow to define who I am? How much guilt am I going to carry around? How much energy am I going to carry around from that instance? And not just that one, but maybe the ones from childhood, maybe the ones from teenage, maybe from 2 weeks ago, maybe from that one girl that broke your heart, or that one guy that broke your heart, or that one mean thing, or the way your parents view you. It broke down all those paradigms and shifted into your giving the energy into what you want it to mean. And so here I am, kind of astounded as I'm looking at my own life. And then as I look up at to like see this being, she's faded away. And I'm in a forest. And I'm just kind of sitting there. And I realize that it's all okay. That this is perfectly natural part of this. And that it's okay that none of it means anything. And that I get to decide what anything means from here on out about my own life, as well as about the life that I choose to live and my past memories. Now, I would love to say that that's stuck with me forever, and that I'm always remembered that 100%. But no, I haven't. I slip and I forget that sometimes, and even in this moment, I'm remembering that. Now, that sounds very nihilist in some ways, but it also sounds very empowering, that like everything is my own responsibility. How I choose to experience my reality is up to me. And so as I'm laying there, I'm sitting in the forest in this vision, but I can tell my physical body there. I'm like aware of my physical body again, laying against the thing. And I'm starting to have this realization, like, oh yeah, like I'm in a ceremony. This was a vision. I'm not really dead. I'm starting to have this memory. I go, okay, if everything is my full accountability and I get to give it the meaning I want, then anything I feel sad about or heavy about that doesn't serve me, I no longer want to feel that or view it that way. I want to view it from neutrality or with gratitude. And immediately I start having all these visuals of things from my past that I'm still holding guilt to. And I'm watching them like turn into like from this like dark, heavy imagery into this lighter colored energy, or into like a grayed out imagery where like I watch them like disappear out of my memory. And then suddenly I snap back into the room, like I'm back into the Maloka laying there, and I realize, oh, I've got to get up, got to get to the bathroom. And so I try to get to the bathroom, and I have to have like one of the assistants like help me to the bathroom because I can't walk. Like I'm super in the medicine, I can't see. It's dark. They help me get to the bathroom, and like as soon as I sit down, it's a big purge. I just grab my bucket because I advise you to go with your bucket with you because when you stand up, the body adjusts. And grandmother ayahuasca is a purgative, like it is something that brings things out of you. That's why you want to be on a clean, healthy diet. So I think you're purging out is the actual energetic, is the physical manifestation of the energies that no longer serve that you're getting out. So that's literally what happened. The moment I sat down, I was just puking into this bucket, and just all this darkness, all that what I had said I wanted out. I said I no longer want to view things from guilt and shame. And that doesn't mean that I don't still have guilt and shame about things. It doesn't mean they aren't still growing. I'm not enlightened now or anything like that. And this was, 5 years ago that I went through this experience. And so as I'm purging out into this bucket, I actually hit a point where I'm a little afraid I'm going to fill it up. And about that time, I kind of stopped and I, clean myself up and dump the bucket and all that stuff. All's good and well. And as soon as I come out of the bathroom, after washing my hands and so forth, I'm introduced to this new beautiful medicine known as aqua de flora. And it is this beautiful stuff. I actually have some right here. It comes in a bottle like this. It's this beautiful liquid, aqua de flora, like it has rose water and other, it's very strong. But they pour it on your hands and you clap 3 times and you breathe it in very slowly. What it does do is it clears you up. It clears up the energy and it actually can ground you back down. And so by doing that, I was kind of closing the energetic chapter on the experience I had just had and closing that chapter and beginning to get ready for the next one, but also clearing off any energies that didn't serve. and allowing myself to also feel more grounded, that I could walk back clear. I didn't feel nauseous anymore from what I had done, and it was very clearing. And so I've learned that it's a grounding medicine, a clearing medicine, a healing medicine. You can rub it on parts of your body that hurt. Also, it's a great mover of energy too, because I've done this before where I'll go around when I'm in ceremonies and assisting, and I'll give people aqua de flora. Whether that's down in the jungle in ceremonies, or whether that's up here in like sweat lodges or other kinds of rituals, and people they use it and it helps clear them and ground them. But also if they need to move energy, it will move energy. It'll get people to cough or sneeze, or it can cause people to throw up. I've only had that happen like twice, but that person obviously needed to move that energy. They were fine until that, and then okay, and they felt great. Now, purging isn't always puking. Purging can be crying, it can be laughing, it can be yawning, um, it can be moving the body. That's one thing I've learned in the Hawaiian traditions, like the hula and other like energy works that you can do. They're moving the energy within you. And so there's lots of ways to move energy and release it. It doesn't always have to be through vomiting for a purge. Purging is just moving the energy that doesn't serve. And also, moving energy inside of you is good in general, because stagnant water doesn't taste great. Stagnant air doesn't smell great. So, continuing on with this story, when I'm back down in my bed and I'm sitting there and I'm observing again and enjoying, uh, he calls for seconds. And so I realize it has only been an hour so far, like this entire deep vision and experience I've been on. He said he'd call for seconds about an hour, and so maybe it might be past an hour, but we're still within the first 2 hours of this ceremony. And normally grandmother ceremonies can be anywhere from 6 to 8 hours. So as we're going through this energy and we're enjoying it, and I go ahead and I take a second cup. He checks in with me to see how I'm doing, how I'm feeling. And I take a second cup and I lay down again on my bed. And I purposely lay down all the way flat this time, because I just know that when it kicks in, it's going to be, and also realizing I'm still on the medicine from before. The medicine from before isn't over just because I purged. Like it's still in my system. It's still pumping through me. I'm still seeing slight visuals of fractals and colors. And like even when I went up to get the cup, like I could see him, in the sense of like, when you get close enough to someone in darkness, you can see them. And I was aware of him, but also like I was seeing sparkles and colors the whole time too. So I'm laying down and I'm just enjoying the visual show. I'm enjoying the kaleidoscopes, the colors, the rainbows, and they begin to blur into this one massive rainbow picture. And I just feel that like rainbow veil kind of flush over my eyes. And as it begins to happen, I realize I'm standing on a trail. I'm standing on this like dirt trail in the middle of the woods somewhere. I can tell I'm up in the mountains just because of how like the air feels. And I'm like, okay, cool. And again, I'm like, wait, am I astral projecting? Am I traveling? Am I having a vision? And again, there's this voice that comes and goes, don't worry about it. It doesn't tell me Garth is dead this time, but just says, don't worry about it. And out of the trees comes this man, or which I think is a man, but it's actually this giant elk. And as the elk comes out of the tree, there's a man on top of the elk. He's riding the elk, and he's in a bearskin cloak, and the cloak is over his face, and I can tell it's a bearskin because it has like a bear head, furry, and I can't see his face, but I can hear this deep voice. And as he begins to talk to me, he is talking about just introducing himself and like explaining that I need to not be so much in my mind. And if I allow my mind to quiet, I can surrender deeper into the medicine. And he says intentions propel the experience. Expectations kill it. And by surrendering, all can be revealed. And so I take a big breath in and I relax myself, opening my chest. And at that moment, he tilts his head up and takes the hood back. And I recognize it as the man from my first NDE, who actually also was there in my second NDE, which is a story I haven't told with you guys yet, that will come later. but he has his big beard, and there's rainbow beads in it, and there's rainbow feathers I can see on his cloak sticking out. He has long hair with his rainbow feathers in it, and it is Arcoiries, this elder that has appeared to me before. And he goes, we knew we'd meet again, and I'm here to teach you more about who you are and more about yourself. And I was like, I feel like I've learned so much about myself. Like, what more is there? And right at that moment, this wolf pack comes spilling out from the woods behind him. And the elk doesn't move, and I kind of jump, and the wolf pack just surrounds us. And I mean, it's like a good sized wolf pack. Like, we're talking 50 to maybe 70 wolves are just all around us, but they're not snarling, they're not doing anything, they're just there. They just walk out and surround us. And he lets me know, and he goes, I want you to understand, you have power within you that is important. You have a voice that's important to share, and that everybody has power and truth and gifts and medicine that's worthy of sharing to the world. And yours is assisting others in transformation, which you already know. And your other gifts of medicine, you already know. And so I'm just kind of sitting here and I'm thinking about that for a moment as he's talking. And in this moment, suddenly he disappears, and there's nothing but the wolves left around me. And then out of nowhere, one of the wolves walks forward, and she's this it's a female wolf, but she's like black and white in a lot of ways with like glowing green eyes. And she looks at me right in the eyes. And as we connect, I immediately recognize that one, she has a lot of the energy or like the feelings I would have around my first Akita Shiba, who has passed away at this point. But I feel this connection, and I feel comforted. And I realize this entire pack is on my side. This entire pack isn't malicious, which I didn't feel was malicious, but I was still uneasy by being surrounded by all these wolves. And then Archimedes has left me with all these wolves. And as I'm standing there, all she says to me is, you have power. You better get used to it. Learn to embrace your fangs and speak your voice. People pleasing serves you no more. And if you're ever in doubt and you ever feel lost, you are never alone, for thousands walk with you. And in that moment, all the wolves transform into like ancestors and people, and then there's still wolves next to them. So there's like a wolf and then like a person. And I can just see it go for miles and miles. Like my eyes can't see the end of it, of all these ancestors. And then there's all these animals with all these ancestors, and they're just rippling out. And I just can't even comprehend all the different creatures and the different people. And then all the people aren't actually people, like not earthlings, like some of them aren't earthlings. Like I don't know what they are, they're extra dimensionals of some kind of other race, I assume. And so as I'm feeling all this, I'm pulled back to that wolf, and she goes, and what I now call wolf spirit, or Lobos Espiritu, I'm connecting with this energy. And she goes, you're never alone. And if you ever want to see true freedom, howl with all your soul. To embrace your power, embrace your freedom, embrace true all that you are. Howl with all of your soul. And then she howls, and all the wolves howl, and they disappear. And I'm left standing there by myself. And so I go ahead and howl. And as soon as I begin to howl inside of this vision, I'm half worried that I might be howling in real life. And I'm like, crap, am I howling in the middle of ceremony? Like, am I making noise? Fuck. And so I'm kind of pulled back immediately into ceremony. The vision closes. I'm snapped back to quote unquote reality. Because what is reality? That's a whole other story for another time. And as soon as I come back to my body, I sit up out of my bed, grab my bucket, and I purge again. And as I'm purging, I can just hear howling in my ears. And I'm laughing and purging. It's and as I start to laugh, the people next to me laugh. And then the shaman's laughing, and the other maestra, and my maestro are laughing, and the whole Maloka is like bursting out laughing as I'm purging, and it's like a loud. It's not like a little one. Like it's like vibrate, the world loud. Finally, that all wraps up. We're all having a good laugh. They come over the aqua before me. They're doing some feather work on me, some energy, you know. And as I'm laying there, um, the main teacher, holder of the ceremony, comes over. His name is Nick Stark, and he was my most beautiful, wonderful first teacher, and I'm so grateful for him. He's a little rough around the edges, but he comes over and he sits next to me and he goes, "You did a good fucking job. You're doing great." And he goes, "You were so deep when I called for thirds, you didn't even move." And I was like, "Oh, cool." And so he's like, "I'm going to do some Apacho blessing on you, which is called Soplatos, and I'm going to give you a Apacho." And I was like, "All right." And so he does Soplatos on me, which is he's breathing smoke in different spots of my body, clearing out the energy, wrapping up this healing. And then he, gives me a Apacho and blesses it and hands it to me, and teaches me about, which is like, you don't pull it all the way into your lungs. You pull it into your mouth and fill up your body and then let it out. You can pull it into your lungs and fully inhale, but you don't need to fully inhale for its magic to work. And so he hands it to me, lights it, and I begin to puff on that and listen to the songs for the rest of the ceremony. And I listen to the songs and I begin hearing all these things. And, just at this point, it's just visuals. And I shouldn't say just, but like there's no more deep lessons coming. There is like appreciation for life, there's appreciation for beauty. It's realizing that like all things have beauty in them, and I'm just seeing continuous colors and fractals and sometimes animals. And I started to see little bits of Icaros floating around the room, but not quite. Just like little patterns here and there that I didn't know what they were at the time. And at this time, I didn't know what Shipibo was. I didn't know like much about Machu Picchu or about the Andean traditions, but I keep hearing this term Shipibo in my mind. I keep hearing Machu Picchu in my mind. And I'm like, yeah, I've never heard Shipibo, I've heard of Machu Picchu. And so these are things I'm going to go ask the shaman about later and ask these other people. Um, and so the first one that Aqua afforded me was this man that had the Hawaiian background and is like a master in world shamanism. And the main teacher, Nick Stark, is the one that, doing the Apacho and worked with me. And so ceremony closes, we wrap up, everyone's allowed to share a little bit about their experience, candles lit, we're allowed to leave the Maloka and go into the next hut, and the next hut has some soup and some conversations we can have. I made some amazing friends down there. And but as the ceremony closes up, and after we all share, Nick stands, the main maestro, and says, "Ceremony's not over until you hug everyone." And then we all, gives a hug to each person before he leaves the room. And then we all give each other hugs and so forth. But I thought that was a beautiful thing of like, we've been on this individual collective journey. Like each person was in their own journey, going through their own stuff, their own purge, their own whatever. And the medicine workers are there helping them, and medicine men and women are helping them, and so forth. But then, like, we all were collectively aware that we were all in the Maloka together. And now ceremony has ended. It's kind of like we're all giving each other appreciation and joy and love for what happened. And so that night, after we've had some soup and some talk and so forth, I meet this man that later became one of my best friends, and still is to this day. And we ended up talking for hours, and we talked all the way. Like ceremonies at sunset, and sunset, down there in the jungle at that time was about 8 p.m. ish, and so 6 hours later, you're looking at about 2 a.m. when ceremony is wrapping up, and it was about 2 something, it's about 3 a.m. by the time we get done. And then I talk to this guy for hours and probably fall asleep around like 5 a.m. And then it's nothing but dreams, and which is beautiful, but all dreams about ceremony, all dreams about the experiences I went through, and more downloads and lessons are come into me. Things that were more about my personal life at the time, things that helped me become a better husband, things that helped me be a better friend, a better coach, things that were just for me to adjust about myself. But it wasn't just about lessons, it was also about recognizing where I am showing up great and recognizing where I am doing the great things. And realizing, again, it's only the meaning I add on to it. But at the same time, there are ways to be better. It's kind of whatever we do in this life creates a ripple effect. And so, like, there is no right or wrong, but if you lie, that creates a ripple effect. If you hurt somebody, it creates a ripple effect. If you're nice to someone, it's a ripple effect. If you give, give to somebody, it's a ripple effect. So all things have ripple effects, and some ripple effects have greater, more enjoyment out of them when those ripple effects come back, or also make you feel better by participating in ripple effects that way. And so there are higher frequency, higher vibrational actions we can take, but that doesn't mean the lower ones are wrong or evil or negative. Just wanted to share that story with you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for hanging out with me. Here's a couple other videos. Here's probably another podcast and some other videos from my channel that are high vibe. Check them out if you feel called to. Hope you're having a great day, and remember, you are awesome. Peace, love, namaste.